Okay, so I want to move on and talk about Sam's speech at the end and his big moment, right?
Yeah.
So this was like obviously like a big culmination of the show, I think. And first of all, he comes down, he like flies down with Carly's body with like his wings out. And there was something about that shot that felt like very iconic, like almost like it was lifted directly from like a religious like painting or something. You know,
Yes.
there was something
Yeah.
really impactful about that. And to me, like maybe like the underlying like sort of feeling that you get from or that you can get from that image was like that's like him his like savior like pose or something. I'm not saying he was like posing for a picture. I'm just saying like
Yeah.
there's something really uplifting and like impactful about that image. Did that strike you, and like what did you think about that as he was coming down?
I think that's the best shot that we get of him. In his new regalia, I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
best shot we get of that outfit. As he's sort of landing, with the wings outstretched, and as he lands, they sort of go in, and he lays Carly down. That's probably the best visual we get of the entire new outfit with the proper
Mm-hmm.
lighting. I really did like that shot. I really did like that entire scene. I really didn't care much for the Global Repatriation Council in this show. I didn't care for the GRC at all,
I
man.
didn't care for
So
him either.
you know, like I think in my review, I said something along the lines of like, is they're gonna have to work really hard for us to care about the Flag Smashers ruining this get together because I don't.
Right.
You
I
know,
kind of feel
I
like the GRC is a stand-in in the show for like every dysfunctional governmental body like in the
yes,
world kind
yeah.
of. And so it kind of funnels like like our frustration about that kind of thing towards that group,
Mm-hmm.
that council. And yeah, so I totally agree with you there. But you were
and,
saying?
and, and we never even get the senator's name. So the ball
It's
guy
true.
that the ball guy that Sam gives the shield to in the beginning, he's standing there talking to War Machine and Sam, and
Mhm.
and Don Cheadle kind of gives him that look like, yeah, I don't like you either. And then we see him at the end of that episode giving Walker the shield, and then we see
Mhm.
him at the proceedings where they strip Walker of everything, and then we see him there at the end of the GRC thing. Um,
Mhm.
we never even get that guy's name, but he's like the face of the GRC. He's the face of the governmental body in this show,
Yeah.
and I just really don't like that guy. I really
I
don't.
don't like him either. Because, looking back on it, after they did the thing where they introduced John Walker and that, like, because I remember he was standing next to Rhodey at the Smithsonian or whatever when Sam was giving up the shield. And
Yeah,
and looking back on it after, like if you go back and watch that first episode with him standing there, he almost looks like he's like impatient or something. Like
really,
like
really.
I just know that he knew what his plans were when Sam was giving it up, and he
Yeah,
was he just let it play out like that, and that made me
yeah.
hate him like all the more.
He was salivating. Yeah, like he took the shield and put it in his case, knowing that he was going to take it back out of the case. You know.
Yeah, like, and he probably did it like 5 minutes later. That's the impression that I get.
Yeah, yeah. No,
You
he
know,
was texting somebody behind his back like, "We got it, we got it, guys. It's about to
all right, get it to
happen."
Walker so he can practice throwing it for the B-roll on the, for the news segment.
The B roll.
Yeah. So I think that that you're totally right on with that. So I'm wondering what your reaction to and your thoughts about Sam's whole speech at the end. Like for my part, I thought it was really inspiring. I thought it showed how Sam, like how far he had come in terms of like acceptance of like taking this up, and I felt like it showed us how Sam was really up to being the Captain America for this day and age in a way. So like what are your thoughts about? I know it's like a big moment and everything, but what do you think?
So what I really liked about it, insofar as I know, in his comic run as Captain America, once he takes the
Mhm.
moniker, his whole thing that makes him different from Steve is that Steve was the Captain America that dealt with global and worldwide and national and domestic and international
Mm.
issues. Steve Rogers was all over the place, and he dealt with things everywhere. And in Sam's run as Captain America, with him not being a super soldier or being, quite as capable, I guess, in some regards as Steve Rogers, he's more the grounded guy. He deals with the local and the domestic stuff. So in that speech, I love that they were just they were showing his humanity, and they were showing that he is gonna be a Captain America. Not saying that Steve Rogers wasn't. He's gonna be a Captain America of the people, right? And he, whereas I think that in Steve's early run as Captain America, he sort of had on blinders, to some of the stuff that was going on, and we kind of see him lose some of those blinders as his story goes on. Sam has gotten
man out of time too, right? So
yeah,
he didn't
man out of time.
Get it at first, yeah.
Yep, and we see Sam have that same progression in 6 episodes, right? He takes that same pitch. So I like the speech. I like that it was coming from his perspective as a combat veteran. It was coming from his perspective as someone who had been in the military. It was coming from his perspective as being a black man. And like I said, Marvel didn't pull any punches whatsoever. In that regard, they were very forward. They were very honest. And even in the things that he says about Carly's movement, he said some really good things about her movement and what the Flag Smashers did. That he could be, not looked at too fondly for. He said, hey, what she was fighting for wasn't necessarily wrong. The way she did it maybe wasn't the best way, but if you guys continue to do things where you're doing it, she's not going to be the first. And look, 1.0 was a problem. You don't want to see 2.0. I don't want to see 2.0. So I liked his speech, and I think that it was the perfect stamp and seal on the series.
I agree, man. And I think there was something about the way he was talking that really showed his compassion in his humanity, like you said, but it was also, an acknowledgement of the complexity of the situation, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So, and he didn't condone the bad things that Carly did, but he was like, she just gave up her life to try and stop you from voting on this, and nobody's asking why that is. Yeah. He's like, you're talking about, doing this to half the people in the world, literally. You have all this power. How do you think these people are going to feel about you when you're forcing them to, move and relocate and do all this stuff, right? And so just the whole speech, I think, knocked it out of the park. And like, there's that shot of when he was really getting to it, that reaction shot on Bucky, where he was like, I felt like in that moment, Bucky was like, he well and truly got it. Why, in part at least, why Steve was like, this is the guy.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
This is the guy that I need to give the shield to. And granted, Steve didn't understand like the whole thing about what it all meant and everything. But I think that Steve was definitely right in seeing something in Sam that was important in terms of carrying on the symbol and what Steve had kind of made it into being. Does that make sense? Do you
yeah, I 100% agree with that. And in that same vein, probably before or after that Bucky shot, they showed the shot of Isaiah Bradley. And they sort of show him watching. And Elijah, and you can kind of see in his face. I don't know if it was more of a respect angle, because I don't think at that moment he necessarily agreed still with Sam taking the mantle, but you just kind of see him, seeing Sam do this and sort of just sort of coming to terms with it, like, okay, well, I feel this way, but he feels that way, and he's not wrong, So I felt like that was needed.
Yeah, I'm really glad they cut to him and his grandson watching that, because I feel like if they would not have done that, that would have been like a real missed opportunity for some reason. But like, you could tell that it was impacting them, right? That they were watching this and it was really resonating with them. And then, so I mean, I thought. And one of the moments that I thought was real cool was when like the bystanders are there recording it, and the one guy goes. He was like, that's Black Falcon right there. And the guy goes, no, that's Captain America. And I was like, right on, man.
He was speaking for the whole fandom.
Yeah. Like I felt like in that moment, he was really embodying and channeling being Captain America, Yeah. And he's not, he's not exactly the same as Steve. And in a lot of ways, but he doesn't have to be. And in fact, it was in my mind at least, and you can tell me what you think, it's probably good that he wasn't Steve 2.0.
Yeah. I don't know that. I don't know that, and I could be wrong. This is just my opinion. I don't know that Steve Rogers is the Captain America we need for the climate, the world in the MCU is in. I don't know that. Right. I don't know that he. Yeah, I don't know if he's the Captain America that's needed. I think Sam is the Captain America that's needed, and I think the show goes very far to sort of show us that.
I think you're right, and it reminds me of that conversation that Carly had with her Flag Smashers in one of the previous. It was the scene in the cemetery where they get the super soldier serum. And the one guy's like, "Oh, back in the day, I was a Captain America fan," and then they're talking about like the shield and what that means, and like she was like, Steve was great and all, but like the world's different now. It's not like the whole world versus the Nazis. It's like things are more complicated, and like that shield has kind of come to mean like represent like all the people that got left behind, and so I kind of feel like the fact that Sam is the person who's got it now, and the fact that he's the Captain America now, I feel like there's more potential there for more people to see themselves in him and to feel like that they're not going to be left behind by Captain America, or at least he's going to have their interests in mind or something. So, I don't know. Do you think I'm onto something there, or?
Yeah, I do. I think that the shield is going to be a completely different symbol under Sam. I know that there was some thoughts being played with of like, well, hey, if we're going from, Steve Rogers, one super soldier, let's go to another super soldier. Let's have, Bucky be Captain America. And in the comics, Bucky has held the shield for some time. But I think that in the MCU, in this realistic sort of world and take we have on these properties, you can't give the shield to Bucky Barnes, right?
Yeah.
Not with the ledger that he has. So I think that it is going to be a completely different symbol under Sam. I think that's what the speech was meant to symbolize to us. Like, hey, this is the direction we're taking it. And I would love at some point to see, I don't know if we ever will, I know that there was some talks, and again, this could be fan theory crafting, but I know that there was some talks about maybe a Captain America movie coming out at some point down the road. Captain America Man Out of Time, and again, that's just fan theory crafting. But I thought to myself, I would really love to see that movie. But I think now I'm more excited about this Captain America 4 movie that the Hollywood Reporter reported on with Malcolm Spellman, the guy that was the showrunner for this show. I'm more excited for that film now to see where Sam takes it. I want to see what the public discourse outside of what they frame for us in just that speech. I want to see what the overall opinion is, because as there's going to be varying opinions. There are going to be some people that aren't as quick to recognize him. There are going to be some bodies that aren't as quick to accept him. And, that's why they had John Walker. They wanted a Captain America that they could control. And I don't think they're going to be able to control Sam. I think we see that.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that's for the best.